Hi, I'm John Blackburn, and this is a notes episode of Entertainment Matters. These shorter episodes are inspired by conversations I've had with guests on the podcast. What I'm doing here is pulling out a few ways of thinking, decisions, attitudes, shifts in perspective that seem to have led to real outcomes. Sometimes it's something practical like a plan or a set of precise steps, and sometimes it's more about values or philosophy. But the aim is always the same, to look at how things actually get made, how ideas can help us move forward, and what we can notice about that whole process. So this is less, here's what to do, and it's more, here's something interesting. What do you think? Today, I've had the absolute pleasure of listening through to my interview with the fantastic Jess Chambers. So right off the bat, Jess Chambers actually tells us in one of the answers to her questions what her top 3 priorities are for marketing your show or your event. And she says that those are email, integrating all of your numbers and your data within a CRM, and having regular conversations with the audience. Now, she spells those out so clearly and so directly towards the end of that episode that actually I'm not going to spend any more time on those. I just recommend that you go and listen to exactly what she has to say in the interview. So what I've done is I've picked out 3 other things, 3 themes that came up a few times in the episode, and I've gone into them in a bit more detail. So number 1, imagine an audience of 1. About 11 minutes into the interview, Jess introduces this idea of conceptualizing your audience as one person and imagining observing them and having conversations with them. So how can you do this? First of all, imagine who they are, this ideal audience member. How old are they? Where do they live? Have they got a family? Are they looking for a night out with friends? Or are they looking for something to do with their family? Where would they want to meet for a conversation? Would it be in a bar? Would it be in a cafe? Would it be outdoors somewhere? When you get there, what are they eating and drinking? So build up a very real picture of an actual person in your head. Imagine, who is the person I'm really trying to attract to my show, and what do they love? Now, you want to try and figure out by talking to them, initially in your imagination, why would they want to come to your show? How are they going to feel when they're at the show and afterwards? How else might they be getting that feeling or trying to get it? Are they spending money on anything? Are they going to other places? So, when it's safe to do so, not when you're driving, actually imagine having these kinds of conversations. Actually ask this person in your head and imagine, what might this person say? What would you notice whilst you're talking to them? The more deeply you can empathize with your audience, the better you'll be able to communicate with them in the real world. Last question on this one. What do you need to say to them to get them excited enough to buy a ticket? All right, number 2, the idea of there being this warm-up stage in marketing before converting them into a sale. So here's some things that Jess said that I thought were really interesting on this idea of warming up in your marketing. One of the first things she says is, you can't do the marketing for Glastonbury in 3 weeks. She also says, you wouldn't just walk up to someone in a bar you'd never spoken to and shout, buy my ticket. She also talks about timescale. She talks about lead-in time and thinking 6 months ahead of an event, giving you 3 months to warm up the audience, 3 months to introduce yourself, to introduce the event, to introduce the venue, which leaves you then 3 months of time to convert them into sales. And she makes a big deal about the need to get repetitive. Remember, it's important to get repetitive. Repetitive. So how can we start doing some of this with our own work right now? So straight away, think in terms of starting to warm people up about 6 months before a show or event, longer if you can. Jess actually points out that the end of this year's version of event should start the warm up for next year. Have a think about what questions you can answer for a potential audience member way in advance as you introduce yourself, the event and the venue. So as you imagined earlier, talking to them in the bar or the cafe or whatever, you've figured out where they like to hang out. What questions did they have? Make sure you answer them. Remember, in this warm-up stage, as Jess says, you wouldn't just randomly run up to someone in a bar and shove a ticket in their face. What would you say to them? Use that why would they want to come to your event stuff from earlier. Get repetitive, and finally, get repetitive. Number 3, this one was quite a big one for me. Jess talks about having a conversation with a previous line manager in an old job. And this line manager had said to her in the course of the conversation, I really think you should go and work in events. And whilst this isn't strictly marketing related, I do think it's a real genius moment of self-awareness from Jess that can help us do a lot of things. So at about 22 minutes, Jess mentions having this conversation, and she gives us the line, I really think you should go in events. I think you'd be really good at it. And then she goes on to say, this is Jess, now when I think about everything, I've always got that little sentence that someone said to me in my mind. So why do I think that this is so great? Well, most of us have a really good way of making ourselves feel bad if someone says something unhelpful to us. What do? We replay it over and over in our heads, hearing that person's voice really loud. We remember how they looked when they said it. Then we might start to feel awful. We might think of reasons why that person might even have been right in what they said. We might remember other people that we think have said something similar, so we start to feel even worse. And before long, we've got ourselves in a real state and we can't really do anything useful. What Jess might be doing is a bit different. She's got this brilliant, vivid memory of someone saying something very positively and meaningfully to her. And it obviously makes her feel good. And if you feel good, you'll be resourceful and creative and productive and all those other good words. So I wonder what would happen if instead of referring to a list of crappy things we think about ourselves or we think other people have said, what would happen if you created a note in your phone of encouraging things people have said to you over time? What could happen if every day you deeply remembered where you were, what you could see, what the person's voice sounded like, what you said to yourself afterwards, and how you felt in that moment of being encouraged? Noticing, creating, and recalling this positive experience wires the feelings, or the states as we call them in NLP, into your brain and into your body, making them easier and easier to access again in the future. You literally teach yourself how to feel that good again. So when it's safe to do so, not when you're driving, write down 3 encouraging things that people have said to you. Even if they were small, go into the memories and write down what you noticed, the tone of their voice, where you were, all that kind of thing, to make it easier and easier to remember and recall each time. If you can't think of any, don't worry, I've got you. Imagine someone whose opinion means something to you. It doesn't matter who they are. Imagine that person offering you encouragement. If they were going to say something to encourage you, what might they say? Write down what comes to mind. What do you see in your head? Who is the person encouraging you? What can you see around you when they're talking to you? How is their tone of voice? How loud is their voice? How would it feel if you believed them? What will you do differently when you believe what they're saying? Also, experiment with hearing your own voice confidently congratulating and encouraging you. And that's it. If you haven't already, go and listen to Jess's interview. It's fantastic. There's so much wisdom and good ideas, and it was really good fun talking to her. I'm sure you'll really enjoy it as well. Again, the point of these shorter episodes is to give you things that you could go away and try on, give you ideas and present you ideas in a way that you could actually go and use them immediately. And I'd love to hear from you if you do that. So if one of these ideas or questions struck a particular chord with you, let me know what you did with it. Did you go and think about it and try it straight away? What happened when you did? Did you write it down or put it in your diary to have a go at later? Drop me a line let me know which of these ideas or these changes in thinking most appeal to you. If you'd like to be notified when there's a new episode, whether it's a full conversation or one of these Entertainment Matters notes episodes, you can sign up for the Entertainment Matters Q sheet using the link in the description. That's where I share updates, ideas, and the occasional extra thought that doesn't quite make it into the episode. Thanks for listening, and thanks as always for whatever you do to make live entertainment happen. See you next time.